Well, welcome to Backyard Wellness, a show that tries to show you healthy options in the region, community, and even your own backyard. And today we're in somebody's backyard along a creek, and with me is Rob Herman. And we're going to talk about stream restoration and how it's influencing erosion prevention. So thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Rob, I see a lot of stuff going on this little creek here. Can you explain it to me? I mean, I see rivulets and all kinds of things. What's going on here?
Okay, so what we did with this particular area here of the stream, first thing we did was we took off most of the large trees. This was a box elder maple corridor along here. And what typically happens when you have that is they grow together and they close the canopy off, so there isn't a lot of sunlight that actually reaches the stream bank itself. Okay. And as a result of that, there's very little grass or sod to help hold the soil. So the first thing we do is take off all the unwanted trees. Most of the time it's box elder. And then we will shape the banks to usually a 3-to-1 slope. And in this particular area, we added riprap or rock along the base and up the slope about probably 3 to 4 feet. And also, we incorporate some habitat for the fish. This is a stream, so we've got some different things that we do to manipulate the habitat. We put some logs in the creek, some rocks, build some underwater benches where the fish hide under, and then sometimes we make little fast or plunge pools, weirs, things like this to give the fish a spot to hide. And it also creates an area for the aquatic inverts to attach to that the fish eat. So by adding rock, the inverts, the aquatic inverts, your mayflies, stoneflies, caddisflies, they can attach to these rocks, and then when we get big floods, they actually stay put. Most of our streams in this particular area of the county are shifting sand, so by adding these logs and rocks, that creates a bigger food source because there's more attachment areas for these inverts. On a shifting sand stream, you know, we get a big flood and the sand moves around and a lot of these inverts get flushed around. So
you're making it more stable for the ecology in a variety of ways. I mean, you're not just looking at trout, but you're looking at what trout feed on and how those things can maintain themselves throughout the years.
Absolutely. What we're trying to do is create a stable environment that's long-term, okay?
Yes.
I mean, naturally on some of these spots, you know, you'll get an undercutting bank, but what happens over time is the water keeps undercutting that, pretty soon that bank falls in. Now that's a natural process. What we're trying to do here is create that process of an artificial undercut bank, but we want it to be more stable. So when I come back here 10, 15 years, I still want that undercut bank there in the same place. Mm-hmm. So basically we're kind of locking the stream in place, if you will, but also trying to, you know, create a bigger floodplain, or actually sloping the banks. When the water comes up and floods, we want that water to dissipate and lose its energy out on the banks. If your streams are, you know, locked in a trench, as we'll look at some of these vertical banks, I mean, it just severe erosion on those banks, and you know, this is a much more stable environment. It's better for the fish with the habitat. You know, we always try to incorporate not only controlling the soil erosion, but let's do something for the fish at the same time we're here. And, you know, done properly, this should last, you know, 30, 40 years or until the rock breaks down.
Hooray. Because you've been taking how long to do some of this? So 20 years or so you've been working on it?
Well, I've been working on this for probably over 20 years. It's just, we just do a little...
It'd be nice to have it last a little longer.
Right.
Like,
so we don't have to start over again. Where we, yes.
Exactly.
No, it's held up very well, and I mean, we're prone to high floods here. I mean, we get huge amounts of water.
Okay, high floods. Give an example. How high does the water get in here?
The water in certain times of the year, I mean, the fields behind us, you know, there'll be water, you know, almost to the high line poles here, not way up that high, but you know, it's basically the floodplain is all the way out in these fields. You know, the
Yes.
water would be well over our heads, you know, on when we get a big rain.
Oh no, really?
You know, this is a huge watershed that it drains, and
Yes.
you know, the terrain in the driftless area where we're at is, you know, we're prone to flooding just due to the terrain. That's, you know, just the hand that we've been dealt, and that's what we've got to play with.
Well, it just looks so tame right now, but I mean, that's a big picture that when you say that it could be all the way up to where we're standing.
Right, right.
Okay, that's a big picture.
And I mean, that's a lot of soil that, you know, is lost during one of those flood
Yeah.
events. So by doing this, we can, you know, lessen that soil erosion. We want to keep our soil here. I mean, soil is a topsoil and is a very valuable resource. And I mean, that's one of the goals of these projects, is to keep the soil on the land and also provide something for the fish.
Well, it must be pretty fertile, this soil too, because look at all the variety that's growing in it. I mean, it's not a barren wasteland
No,
either.
we're very blessed here to have very rich soils and very productive. I mean, you can see the crops behind me. I mean, it's very rich soil. So, but I mean, the key is to keeping that here, and you know, we're improving water quality by doing this. You know, when we get these flood events, there's less sediments entering the stream, and the fish are happy, and you know, the fish respond quite well to habitat improvement. You know, within a year or less, sometimes in the same year, if you do a project in the spring, you can go back in and catch a fish, you know, under some of your habitat logs or stuff that you put in that same year.
And you're not talking about itty bitty fish.
Well,
I would
that's a good question. I'm talking
How
about
big?
all fish. I like to see this. When I see little bitty ones, that tells me that we've done such a good job that we now have natural reproduction, and that's also a goal that we're trying to strive for. But this stream does have some natural reproduction. It is also stocked annually. But what we're trying to do is, you know, maybe manipulate the habitat so that we get that natural reproduction. This is the best hatchery that we have, is right here in nature. So I like to see all kinds and all sizes.
Okay.
So we have a mix. I mean, like I said,
Good.
there is some natural reproduction, and that's what we're shooting for.
So you still have to stock, though. I mean, often?
The local Rod and Gun Club stocks, usually in the fall, they'll put in little brook trout way at the headwaters. And I think the Department of Natural Resources also stocks brown trout here in the spring annually. So it gets stocked twice a year, and you know, spread out throughout the whole system. So
Okay, what I see we're just working on, you're not just working on the creek, you're working on the buffers beside it. I mean, that involves these farmers too, doesn't it?
absolutely, that's correct. I mean, you know, most of the land along these streams in our area are privately owned. So, you know, in order to do these projects, we need to get the blessing of the landowner, and typically that's the farmer. And, you know, a lot of the times this is some of their best ground. By best ground, I mean not only fertility-wise, but also the flattest ground they have. If you look at the terrain around us, I mean, so they're kind of reluctant sometimes to give up too big of a buffer. Now on this particular piece, you know, we've got a buffer that's, you know, about the width of a pickup, and it's kept in sod. We mow it and, you know, try to keep the crops a little bit away from the stream.
It's
But
a little downhill too.
it's a little downhill too, but sometimes that can be a challenge, like I said, because, you know, this is some of their most productive lands. So occasionally some of the landowners, sometimes we will take a conservation easement from them that allows people, you know, public access to fish usually. The hat I'm wearing is from Trout Unlimited. That's a group that is heavily involved in these easements. Also, a local Rod and Gun Club, the Elk Rod and Gun Club out of Independence, has been very active, as well as other sportsmen's groups in the area. We've got tremendous support from our local conservation clubs in Buffalo and Trempealeau County here, Jackson County too. And, you know, these projects, these people partner with some of these projects, and on some of them we do get a public easement. So it's a win-win for everybody. You know, we stabilize things. The general public has a place to fish when we're all done, and you know, just another place for people to recreate.
So how do you know that this has really got some trout in there?
Well,
Or some sizable fish or whatever.
The proof is in the pudding, so let's see if anything will respond today.
Okay.
And I'll take a couple casts and we'll see.
All right.
So. Got a little brook trout. So on the opposite side here, we've got a trout structure, a table. Basically this one is an 8-footer, and we've got big rocks on top of it. So what that does is create an artificial undercut bank that should be here for, you know, several years. Let's see if anybody's home under there, or if they're hungry, if they are home. Just gonna do a little flip out here, and should have really been on the other side, but maybe nobody home today. But anyways, the fish will hide under that. That table is about 4 feet wide, and this particular one is about an 8-foot long. So again, overhead cover and a place for the fish to hide. We got a log kind of forcing the water into the table, keeps the sediment swept out. We try to put a variety of habitat. You know, we'll have a few tables, some logs, you know, sometimes some rocks spilled down into the middle of the stream, some weirs, just kind of a good variety, because certain fish species, you know, like different areas. Sometimes they might want to be in the calm, the pool area. Other times they might want to be in the rapids. So,
which one's like which?
Well, typically, like a lot of the times, you'll find your rainbow trout, and sometimes rainbows get stocked in this system. You know, they like that faster water sometimes. Okay. You know, a lot of the times the big brown trout, you'll deep pools. So it's just nice to have a variety, like anything. I mean, you know, some fast water, some pools, a pool riffle, you know, kind of a little bit of everything. So this is all deposition. This is sand, and that's when I talked about a shifting sand bottom. This is the bank. What the stream is going to do is when it gets high water, this sand is actually going to settle out on the inside bend, or the non-current bearing side of the stream. So basically what we're looking at, what we're set up here on, is, you know, there's probably 3 feet of sand here that's, you know, deposited in the last 5 years. So what the stream is going to do is it's actually going to build these banks back up, you know, over time. And, you know, maintenance, one of the maintenance things would be is probably to maybe come in here and, you know, take this off again and let it fill up again with sand. The good thing is the sand is staying here and it's not going, you know, downstream to the Mississippi where they got to dredge it out. So.
Okay, this area looks a lot different than the others, Rob. You know, your ground, the water, it looks like you still have a lot of projects here.
Yeah, this where we're standing is a project that we're in August, almost first part of August now. So this part where we're standing was done this spring in May. Okay, so thus the vegetation of oats and as my cover crop, and then I've got some clover and other grasses mixed underneath. So this is still growing, but I mean, we've stabilized the banks and, you know, revegetate them, and that was one of our goals, to stop the soil erosion.
Okay. Well, the water looks very clear here. Looks really good.
Yeah, water it's pretty clear. You know, we haven't had any rain here now for a few days, and actually a couple weeks, and it runs pretty clear most of the time. Some other things here in the water that we did in this particular stretch, just kind of mix it up, is some of these piles of brush, it's actually a root wad, and basically what that is we just kind of plucked out about an 8-10 inch tree with the excavator, and we shoved the trunk into the bank about 6-8 feet, and then we have the root wad or the root ball exposed out in the stream, and the fish and the aquatic inverts kind of hide around that habitat, then that little microhabitat in the stream. Also, we've got some gravel areas. You know, we do have a shifting sand stream here, but if you flush some of that sand away, there is an underlying layer of gravel in certain areas, and that substrate is very, you know, beneficial when it comes spawning time in the fall for the trout. They'll lay their eggs on those areas.
So you want to maintain a variety too then? That you let the sand, the roots, and the gravel, that you're going to enhance that.
Yeah, it's all kind of a big pie, and you got little pieces of, you know, wood as habitat, some rock areas, you know, pools and riffles. You know, you kind of want a little bit of everything in there. So.
Good enough, yeah.
And then also we've got a buffer here, you know, too. We're trying to maintain that buffer. You can see the crops are back off behind us here a little ways. So we want to try to keep that buffer here, and on that buffer you also have to maintain it. You can't just seed it down and walk away, or pretty soon you're going to have natural succession taking place, and you're going to have box elder seedlings coming back, and you know, subsequently it'll revert right back to what it was. So anything you do, you have to maintain that, whether you mow it, burn it, or lightly graze it. You know, those are some of your management tools in the toolbox. So.
Otherwise you'll have kind of like an erosion right there on the bank because you don't have this buffer like you have here.
Right. A lot of the times if it revegetates with trees, you're going to get the shading effect, the closed canopy, and then you won't have all this grass helping to hold your soils in place. So we'll take a look at some of the areas here that I have not treated. I mean, I'll show you what some of these banks look like, you know, before we actually did all the work here.
Okay. Well, you can see the flow that Rob has worked on here, the gentle flow of the stream and everything. But on the opposite side of the bank from where I am, there's some work to be done, isn't there, Rob?
There is. We've got another probably segment, or you know, a couple more years of just doing little segments at a time. And if you look behind me, this is one of the raw banks that we have not treated yet. We haven't done anything to. And so that'll be the next time we do some conservation work here, we'll focus on that other side. And obviously here we want to take the box elder off, same thing. And you know, get a nice gradual slope to our banks, and probably rock the toe. And maybe put in, you know, some habitat, some logs or weirs, you know, to give the fish a place to hide also. So.
But the fact that it's clear at this end, this is good. I mean, you know, it's coming. And
yeah.
You can see your work is doing good stuff.
Right. I mean, the clarity of the water, you know, the water quality is a lot better than it was, less sediments going down there. And I mean, you know, from an angler's perspective, it's a lot more easy or conducive to fishing. You know, the banks are sloped. You can actually walk around here, not fight through the brush and stuff. And, you know, the fish really respond to the work that we do. So it's a win-win all the way around. Okay, let's see if anybody's home. We've got a little weir here that we did, a little rock weir. So I'm just going to pitch out in here, and we'll... One hit it there, but didn't quite hang on. There he is. Little brook trout. And self-release. Yeah, a little one.
Rob, thank you. We've been traipsing around and seen a lot today, but are there people or contacts that the viewer needs to know about? Should they want to know more?
They can contact myself. Quality Habitat Improvements is the name of my business, and you know, I like working with landowners, and if we can get other partners involved too, Trout Unlimited, local rod and gun clubs, people like that, and actually everybody work together, you know, for the common good. If everybody would spend just a little bit of time, you know, everybody likes to recreate. So let's say you recreate for 10 hours. If you spent 1 hour trying to make the fishing better or the habitat better, whether it be controlling invasives or, you know, fixing up the streams or the woodlots, it would be a better place for everybody. So that's something we should strive to do, and thank you for, you know, coming out and looking at my backyard.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Backyard Wellness. If you want to learn more, contact TCC TV18 715-538-2311 extension 309 if you have some further questions. Thank you.